This video shows you how to configure BMC Service Level Management, or SLM. After watching this video, you should be able to plan how to use the settings shown here to meet your organization's needs. The video covers these configuration topics: service level agreements, which are commitments that a service provider makes to a customer, and service targets, which are individual levels of service to achieve. An SLA includes one or more service targets. You start by creating service targets. A target can be one of the following types. A request-based target measures how long it takes to complete a process related to a service request of some type. For example, the target might be responding to critical incident requests within 30 minutes. An availability target measures the percentage of time that a configuration item, or CI, is available based on qualifications that define available and unavailable. For example, the target might be that a bug tracking database is available 98% of the time during a 1-month lifecycle. A CI outage target also tracks availability of a CI, but does so based on outage or unavailability records created in BMC Remedy IT Service Management. A compliance-only target tracks whether an SLA is in overall compliance with its targets during a review period based on data calculated externally. A performance monitoring target measures performance of a CI based on key performance indicators collected directly from the CI. Performance monitoring targets are not applicable to the BMC Remedy On-Demand version of SLM. The SLM dashboard displays graphs of the overall performance of your request-based and availability service targets. You can also select a specific target to see the measurements that determine whether the target was met or missed. For example, this request-based service target for incident resolution time has been missed. Although the target was met for 2 incident requests, it was missed for several others. A service target must contain the following components: a goal type, which determines the kind of data to be measured for the target, measurement criteria, which determine when measurement starts and ends, and for request-based, availability, and compliance-only targets, terms and conditions that determine which objects the target applies to. Terms and conditions are expressed as a qualification. For example, the qualification might select change requests at a given location. A target can also contain optional components such as a cost to be incurred when the goal is not met and milestones that trigger notification actions before the goal arrives. To configure service targets, from the SLM console, click Service Targets. You can use templates to more quickly populate values for common types of service targets. If you are creating a request-based target, the Applies To value must be a data source that pertains to requests, such as these 5. You then choose a goal type that pertains to that type of request. You specify terms and conditions that determine which specific requests the service target applies to. If necessary, you can specify full organization, location, product categorization, and operational categorization structures to select the requests that you want. You set the goal for your service target and the cost per minute when that goal is not met. In this example target for the resolution of incident requests, the goal is to resolve applicable requests within 4 hours, and for every minute past that point that a request remains unresolved, the support organization agrees to pay $10. If the target that you're creating is to be used with an operational level agreement rather than a service level agreement, there's probably no cost involved. In this step, you can also select a time period during which metrics and milestones are ignored, such as holidays. Measurement criteria specify when time will be measured for this target against a request. For example, the template for incident resolution starts the clock when the status of a request reaches new and finishes when the status reaches resolved. It also pauses the clock whenever the status is pending an action by the customer. You can also choose to set the status of the service target for a given request to warning when elapsed time reaches a certain percentage of the goal. Milestones are a notification mechanism to help you meet the goal for the service target. You can set multiple milestones at various time intervals or percentages of the goal, and each milestone can trigger multiple actions. For example, when an incident request reaches 75% of the goal for this service target, the request's assignee is notified. When it reaches 90% of the goal, the assignee and their manager are notified. If you are creating an availability target, select an availability data source as the Applies To value. Here, the terms and conditions qualification is based on CI-related values. There is no goal to define, and the cost that you enter is charged per minute of unavailability. For an availability target, the measurement criteria that you enter specify what constitutes availability and unavailability for applicable CIs. You also select a lifecycle interval, which is the period after which availability measurements are evaluated and restarted. Milestones for an availability target can be triggered by a CI's availability dropping to a given percentage, the CI being unavailable for a given number of hours, or the CI being unavailable a given number of times. If you are creating a CI outage target, the goal type value must be CI outage. Instead of specifying applicable CIs with a qualification, you relate the service target to specific CIs. Cost works the same as for an availability target. You can leave the outage condition blank to apply this service target to all outages for the related CIs, or specify a qualification that must be satisfied for the target to track outages. For example, you might want to track only unscheduled outages as shown here. You must specify a lifecycle interval, which works the same as for an availability target. Milestones work the same as for an availability target. If you are creating a compliance-only target, the applies to value must be a BMC Remedy Action Request System form that you've created as a data source for this target, and the goal type value must be app response time. You can optionally specify a terms and conditions qualification and are then finished creating the compliance-only service target. After you create service targets, you can use them in service level agreements. An SLA is a commitment between a service provider and a customer for a defined period of time. It includes one or more service targets which cumulatively determine whether the agreement is met, and can include penalties for missing the agreement and rewards for exceeding it. Like a target, an agreement can set milestones that trigger notification actions. An agreement can also be related to contracts and attachments. The SLM dashboard displays a graph of the combined performance of your agreements, as well as the current compliance status and other statistics for individual agreements. You can also select a specific agreement to see its compliance broken down by service target. To configure SLAs, from the SLM console, click Agreements. You enter an expiration date to set the duration of the agreement and a notification date so that you'll be notified to negotiate a renewal of the agreement before it expires. You can relate the agreement to a business service. This adds the business service to the terms and conditions qualification of all service targets used by the agreement, narrowing their scope. In the Related Service Targets tab, you select the targets whose data determine the compliance level for the agreement. You assign each target a weight to determine its relative importance to the overall agreement. The agreement is considered compliant if it meets the percentage that you specify as the compliance target over time. You can also specify a higher percentage that indicates the agreement is at risk of breaching compliance. Later, you can create milestones that use this marker. You can create penalties and rewards for different levels of compliance, each based on a specific review period. In this example, missing the 98% compliance target by up to 2% for a day incurs a $1,000 penalty, and missing it by more than that incurs a $5,000 penalty. Exceeding the target earns a $1,000 reward. Milestones and actions work mostly the same for agreements as they do for service targets. For an agreement, the condition that triggers a milestone can be at-risk compliance, missed compliance, or compliance below a given percentage. Finally, you can relate contracts and attachments to an agreement to add more context. We hope this video has helped you understand how to configure BMC Service Level Management. Thank you for watching.